Politics got you down? Is your team in last place? Is your significant other sleeping with your neighbor? Well, cheer up. The Julio Rivera Show is on. Deal with your problems afterwards.
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the Julio Rivera Show is on.
All right. Welcome to the relaunch of the Julio Rivera Show on lanterns.buzz. My first show in 6 weeks. I'm so excited. I feel like I've been away for years almost. So many things that have happened since the last time I spoke with you guys. The presidential primary on the Republican side has come crashing down, and it seems that Donald Trump has become the presumptive nominee for the Republican ticket coming up in November. A lot of things have happened. Obviously, I'm no longer on weareamericaradio.com. I'm actually going to have my first ever, and this is going to happen every Thursday. There's going to be a overtime segment that's going to be starting at 11 p.m. on the same Spreaker.com, my original Conservarican hashtag Spreaker channel. And you guys can get filled in on that a little bit later. Please tune into that, and I'll let you know exactly my thoughts on the cruise concession, why I'm no longer on We Are America Radio, and my ideas as far as what the future of the conservative movement holds for us, dear conservatives that love the movement, love the Tea Party, love conservative values, and feel that we're being underserved here with the outcome of this primary. We have a great group of guests. Tonight we have Gene Berardelli, podcast host, award-winning host of Behind Enemy Lines, will be on discussing the New York Mets in our first ever sports segment. We'll also have Judson Phillips, the founder of TeaPartyNation.com, great conservative. We also have Andrea Kaye, host of the Andrea Kaye Show on 1170 AM out of San Diego. And our first guest on the relaunch, the man who's taking on the current Speaker of the House, the man they call Paul Ryan you'll remember him from the 2012 Mitt Romney-Paul Ryan ticket. You know him from the omnibus bill from this past December. And I just want to introduce our first guest ever here, Paul Nehlen. How are you this evening?
I'm great. Great to hear you. Glad you're back.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Radio was missing something, and I'm here to provide it. What exactly that is, I'm not exactly sure. But you're in the middle of actually one of the more interesting situations here in the congressional election landscape here. Paul Ryan, who just became Speaker of the House recently after the abrupt retirement of John Boehner, thank God. He replaced somebody who was seen as a little too moderate, what we like to refer to in the conservative community as a rhino. And it seems like we kind of swapped out one rhino for another rhino in a sense. Now, you're a former Paul Ryan supporter. You identify as being a lot more conservative. Why don't you tell us a little bit of, what separates you from Speaker Ryan for the voters to try to decipher?
Well, I'm a conservative. Thanks for asking the question that way, Julio. Paul Ryan Paul Ryan says one thing and Paul Ryan does another thing. Paul Ryan says he's for smaller government. Paul Ryan shepherds through the Every Student Succeeds Act. Paul Ryan says he's for less spending. Paul Ryan shepherds through the largest omnibus bill ever. Paul Ryan says he's for a lot of things, and then he goes to Washington and he votes otherwise. And you ask yourself the question, Paul Ryan says he's for free trade. We'll throw that one out there. Mm-hmm. Paul Ryan is the mercenary champion of Trans-Pacific Partnership, a job killer It will export jobs overseas, and equally as bad or worse, it will open up the opportunity for companies to bring workers to replace us in our own jobs here at home. And even worse, it will absolutely destroy the sovereignty of the United States by creating essentially a commission or a body like they have in Brussels with the EU. Essentially, the United States would have one vote, Vietnam would have one vote, all the other countries would have one vote. Why in the world would we enter into a 5,500-page trade deal that gives us one vote and Vietnam one vote? It's absurd. It's absurd. Out of the realm. We've run out of words beyond absurd to describe this trade deal because we don't need it.
Exactly. I think it marginalizes the United States of America. As powerful as we are, and as much of the actual consumption that we account for and how much we spend on all these products, I think we deserve a little bit more than having an equal vote with these third world countries, no?
Yeah, well, and the thing of it is, we're already trading with these countries. I saw, look, not even in this China. My infection equipment for filtering and disinfecting water that's used in water parks and for drinking water into China. I sell it into Jordan. I sell it into a lot of countries. Why am I successful selling American product that's more cost than other people's? I'll tell you why. Because I put a 10-year warranty on it, and it works better than anything that they have in China. It works better than anything they have in Jordan. It goes into applications, and it simply works. And sometimes you get what you pay for, and when you have less maintenance, less problems, America can compete with anybody when we take regulation away. You go back to 1950 to today. The Mercatus Center has a very short video. In fact, it's out on my LinkedIn page, embedded in an article that I put out there. Today, we have 18 times as many regulations as we had in 1950. Think about that for a minute. You're a businessman starting a business or running a business in 1950. Imagine if 1951, I said, you're 18 times more. Literally 18 times more regulations to have to deal with than you do today. Could you imagine? You couldn't even read them all, and you could get yourself into trouble. That's the same thing we face today as business owners.
Exactly. Yeah, that's crazy. I read a stat the other day. 80% of new startup businesses go out of business within the first 2 years, and it's due to the mountainous regulations that people have to comply with. There's compliance costs. Listen, at the beginning of starting a business, you're just trying to keep your head above water. You got to worry about paying off the state. If you're doing business interstate, you got to worry about complying with them. It's out of control. I mean, I think deregulation is one of the major steps towards bringing back prosperity in this country and making it easier to create jobs.
That's correct. And I started in a factory at the age of 18 as a maintenance mechanic. I eventually ran that business. It took me 12 years at night to get my engineering degree. I eventually went on to get a master's, an MBA while my kids were in college. I've run businesses all around the United States. I've run businesses. I was in charge of Europe, the Middle East, and Africa for Fortune 500 based out of Charlotte. I've run businesses in China, Mexico, Canada. I've brought jobs back from Mexico. I've brought jobs to the United States from Canada. The United States, you can't only look at the cost of the labor. That's only one piece of it. You look at the cost of energy, and you look at the cost of the materials themselves. We have some of the best energy in the world, in the globe. We've got the best proven reserves. We use nuclear power. France runs 75% of their industry off of nuclear power. France couldn't afford to do what they do or be in the position they're in if they didn't have nuclear power. They run a very safe. They don't look for a big hole in a mountain to put their nuclear waste, they run it down till there isn't any waste, essentially. There's some waste, but they run a process country. We've tied the hands of the people who operate those. But, oil and gas, why are we bringing oil from other countries? Why are we not selling gas outside other countries? The UK, Europe, they're buying gas from Gazprom. Russia has control over parts of Europe because they're getting gas from Gazprom. They don't have the proven reserves that we have here. Who unleashed that? And unleashed this country. And so there's a lot of ways that we can do some great things in this country. But Speaker Ryan just put an op-ed in the Janesville Journal-Sentinel telling small business owners he had the answer. He has the answers for their problems. I would like to know how he arrived at those when the only experience he's got is driving the Wienermobile. He drove the Wienermobile and he went to Congress. That's the level of his experience.
Yeah.
I started, like I said, at the bottom rung. I worked my way up. I've been in boardrooms. I've bought other businesses. I've assimilated those and grown jobs. So Paul Ryan does not have it's offensive, actually, for him to tell small business owners he's got the solution to their problems when he himself has never created, maintained, or had to clear a pay. And
that's funny too that you bring that up, because I think that speaks to DC politicians being completely out of touch with what's going on. They only know what's going on in that little bubble there in DC. They completely lose touch with what's going on in the district. If you look at it, in this election cycle has kind of been telling, because I think you fit, as a businessman, that profile of what, people want now. They want an outsider. They want somebody with the actual experience of making a business work, creating jobs. They're fed up with the DC establishment, which has been making all these promises, really talking out of their butts because they have no idea what it is that they're actually doing. The economy's going in the wrong direction. They think tax and spend politics still work, and it's not doing what it needs to do. Now, I just wanted to make a couple of points here. Because we're kind of short on time.
Sure.
As of right now, the latest polls, you do have a lot of time. Your primary is not until August, but the last poll that I read had you down at about 60 points to Paul Ryan. This budding sort of relationship, perhaps, between Trump maybe and the Republican Party, and whether or not Paul Ryan cozies up to him, do you think that compromises his standing within the party at all, or in your district in particular? What's it like on the ground down there? Like, what's the sentiment?
Sorry. Well, I lost you for just a moment there, but the sentiment on the ground, there's a poll out right now that you referred to. I was not a candidate 4 weeks ago, and I'm a candidate now, and went from 0 to 14% in 4 weeks against the Speaker of the House. Think of the magnitude of that.
Yeah.
My team is thrilled, and presumably it was the Ryan campaign that paid for that poll, and I would like to thank them for the pretty awesome. And
yeah, it's definitely that's definitely making a big dent initially, because you haven't been in the race long, and 14 points or 14 points. Yeah,
I've got 13 more weeks, Julio. And week number one I wasn't at 4%. This doesn't scale linearly. I wasn't at 3.5% week number one, and another 3.5% each consecutive week. I was at 0% week one. We all know that. I was probably at 0.1% week two, possibly. This thing is taken off. Paul Ryan has not done retail politicking in quite some time. He hasn't had a challenger.
Yeah. So he's definitely entrenched. It's definitely been kind of every year the machine is already in place, and he doesn't really have to reach out so much because his name is so well known.
Right. Well, a week ago today, and I'll announce this. You've got the exclusive announcement of this today,
Ooh, perfect.
Julio.
Mm-hmm.
A week ago today, I announced my challenge to Paul Ryan. I announced it through a good-natured campaign video that we put out. A little bit good-natured and a little bit very serious, right? Mm-hmm. I'm riding a motorcycle, and I pull up in front of a factory, and I lay it out that Paul Ryan's trying to give our jobs away. Wisconsin used to be a manufacturing powerhouse, and I show a picture of the General Motors plant back when it was booming. I show a shot through a torn fence that shows 1 in 5 Janesville families need food assistance. They can't even put food on their table in the speaker's hometown. And then we shoot to the factory, and I come walking in my normal business attire for a business meeting, and I throw down the challenge. I throw it down, Julio. Mm-hmm. I say, Speaker Ryan, I want you to come back to Wisconsin and debate me on TPP, on the facts and realities of Trans-Pacific Partnership. And if you don't want to debate me, I put a little joke in there. Hey, maybe we can arm wrestle. Hey, if you want to arm wrestle, hey, you know what? It was a week ago today I threw that down. Mm-hmm. You know what? You know what I've gotten from Paul Ryan?
What?
Crickets.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to face you. Listen, that's what's going on, and that's the essence of this.
I got a free poll, my man, a free poll.
Whoa, hey, that's awesome, but that's really, you're not going to get them to respond. And I think that's the problem with it. They don't want to listen to what people are saying in the district. They go to D.C., they forget about it. Like, I think my plan would be to completely abolish the Capitol, make all these guys have offices in their district and have them have to listen to their constituents. Listen, we don't have a lot of time. Can you just go ahead and give out the website if anybody wants to support, donate, volunteer? Where do they need to go, Paul?
I would suggest they take the fun route. Go to dumppaulryan.com. Mm-hmm. Dumppaulryan.com will take you to our election website, and it will start out with a picture of the large dump truck that we have emblazoned. We've got a large dump truck that shows it looks like a giant Tonka truck for all your listeners who are familiar with the Tonka toys. It's emblazoned on the side in big royal blue letters. To get the dirt on Ryan, go to dumppaulryan.com. and there you will see campaign videos. We've got a lot of good information there. You can go to our issues, our media releases, talks about where we are on the issues. Every few days we're publishing more on where we are with issues. And I'll take your listeners back, Julio, to ask themselves a question. To Paul Ryan suggesting he knows about trade, or he knows about job creation, or he knows about anything. We talked about this a little bit, and you sound like you're in a lot of agreement. And I would ask you to ask yourself this question. If you were interviewing with a boss who just came into an industry that he didn't know anything about, and you had been in the industry for a while, and you're interviewing with this boss who doesn't know anything about anything, what is your take going to be on it? Like, imagine you're going into a job that's, heavy IT job, and your boss, who's just been hired, was making hot dogs. He drove the Wienermobile, and you say to yourself, well, this guy doesn't really know IT, but I'm interviewing with this guy, and what kind of questions is he going to ask me? I ask you the question now. So any small business owners that go to they're reverse interviewing with Paul Ryan and saying, well, wait a minute. I mean, I wouldn't interview with a boss that doesn't know anything but Wienermobile. That doesn't make any sense. He doesn't know what he's talking about. How's he going to be able to judge me on? Paul Ryan's judging those small business owners. He thinks he knows their solution. He thinks he knows better than they do. It defies logic. So when you start asking yourself questions, could I interview with a boss like that?
Exactly. You know what? It's just like Hillary Clinton saying that the private sector doesn't create jobs, that we need government to create jobs. Hey, listen, Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you,
sir. It was
sir.
such a great and enlightening, and anybody that's interested, please check out, what's that, dumppaulryan.com?
Yeah, we decided to make it subtle. Well,
thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to talking to you again soon. That was Paul
You're
Nehlen,
a good man.
thank you so much for coming on the show. And if anybody wants to find out more, certainly go check out dumppaulryan.com, which is actually a very interesting name. I'm actually very, very impressed with that. That was actually a smart way to do this. And on the other side of the break, we're going to have Andrea Kaye joining us for our first ever pop culture segment. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the number one source for political, pop culture, and sports talk on the radio. The Julio Rivera Show. Hashtag Conservarican. With no fuck left to give. The most important, insignificant stories of the week. What happened this week that meant absolutely nothing? Find out now.
Yeah, I got the shortest breaks in the business. That was literally 20 seconds. We station ID'd. We got the intro in. And I'd like to bring up my buddy from San Diego, Andrea Kaye. How are you this evening?
Hey, I'm so excited to be a part of the maiden voyage of the Julio Rivera Show, Conservarican. Thanks for having me, baby.
Thank you for being here. And I hope we don't hit any icebergs. Because you never know what's going to happen out there. It doesn't matter how much steel you have in your hull. Ice is ice. But, a very interesting news story that came up today. And, when I first decided to have like a pop culture segment, I didn't know how it would actually play out. But today, something perfect, just so perfect, fell into our lap. The most ridiculous nonsense that I've ever heard of in my entire life. This guy making himself out to be a victim. I was hoping that this guy would go away and we'd never hear from him again. But George Zimmerman, George Zimmerman from Florida, who we all know, obviously, from the Trayvon Martin situation and blah, 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 he decided that he was going to auction off. I mean, obviously, he's probably hurting for money or whatever the case may be. He thought that someone would want to purchase the gun that he used in self-defense to kill Trayvon Martin in self-defense for $5,000, claiming, and this is the hilarious part of the story, he had on the auction website stating that the Smithsonian had wanted it, which was actually refuted by the Smithsonian. What's your take on George Zimmerman and the ridiculousness of what anybody will do nowadays to make a buck, Andrea?
Well, first of all, I got to say, isn't that part of the American? You are a constitutional conservative, Conservarican. Do you not appreciate the free market system, baby, where it's all about buying and selling? I mean, this is what our country was based on, the free enterprise system. So I got to say, you know what? If there's a market for it, why shouldn't he be trying to sell it? But, but getting back to, first of all, the guy is a creep, okay? He is a liar,
yeah.
Yes. Okay, come on. You know what I mean? I think it's in spite of the free market system. I mean, come on. Have some sensitivity. Have some compassion. You don't be doing this. I think he's well established that the guy's a creep. No way would I, if I had been in his shoes, in spite of the fact that I agreed with the ruling of the court, no way would I be trying to sell off that gun. I think it's absolutely abysmal. I think it shows the depths of the man's character. That being said, Julio, I would have to venture up the fact that I don't really know why this is so shocking, because didn't we have court TV that's been profiting off of crimes? Have we not had Ann Rule made an entire career out of writing books about true crime stories? I am a true crime buff. I absolutely love it. I've spent a whole lot of time of my life watching 48 Hours Mysteries on Saturday nights, and I watched so many movies. What's the difference? Let me ask you this. What's the difference between all the TV shows, the books, and the movies that have profited off of crime stories? What's the difference between that and him selling the gun?
You know what? You make a great point, but I think that he's ripping people off. I mean, you talk about a used 9mm with a body on it. That has a street value in my neighborhood in Patterson of less than $300. Where the hell is he getting $5,000 as a starting point?
Well, I don't know, because I don't know, the value of something. Something is worth what people are willing to pay for, right? I mean, for
Exactly,
me,
yes.
I don't understand why people are spending the money that they're spending on all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? So I think he's got to throw the $5,000 out there. He tried to bump up the value by lying about the Smithsonian. Of course, anybody could check with the Smithsonian. They'd probably be far more interested in the leftover Skittles in the hood than they would
Yes. The
be on his
Arizona,
gun.
the iced tea can probably carries more value.
Exactly. But you know what? I mean, in terms of you saying the guy isn't a victim, I would have to differ with you there, because you talk about profiting. Let's talk about the Today Show and NBC, who profited, and we know that broadcasts profit off of selling advertisements. They made a whole year's worth of profits off of this guy, including altering evidence. This guy was tried in the public, and one of the ways that they did it was they altered actual evidence in order to make him sound like he was racist in the audio tapes, which he was not. They referred to him as a white Hispanic. He was only the lynch mob that was down in Florida. He was overcharged because of that mob. And who was the head of the mob? The president of the United States, saying if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon. You know what? They've been profiting off of the race baiting in this country, going back to Sharpton and to Wanda Brawley. So why shouldn't the white Hispanic profit a little bit off of it, huh?
Exactly. And I have to ask you a question. In your professional judgment, am I a tan Hispanic, or do I fall into the white Hispanic mold? What exactly? See, I have like an identity crisis ever since the whole George Zimmerman Trayvon thing. I don't know what I am.
Well, you know what? I don't know, because I got to tell you, I look at your pictures and I think you look like every kid I grew up with in the South. In fact, if I don't put on SPF 70, I end up looking darker than you are. You know what I mean? So to me, there's just seriously, I'm the color of a Hershey bar. My dad was darker complected than you. He was what's called Black Irish, coming out of Ireland. So I say, you know what? This whole thing about skin color is like crazy. It's ridiculous. Can we get back to just being Americans? And there's nothing more good old-fashioned Americana, Julio, than buying and selling in the free marketplace. Ain't no way, if I was a gun, no way would I put that gun in my auction house. No way would I do it. But hey, I even joked today to somebody on Facebook. I said, you know what? I say maybe, everything's up for, you look at eBay, maybe Kim K, if she wanted to help Kanye pay off the 52 mils in debt, maybe she might want to put some of her implants, her Heine implants, up for auction.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you could use those actually for multiple uses. You could probably use that to supplement like a chest protector, because I don't think that there's a bullet that can go through those ass implants, to be honest with you. One thing, and this is kind of, I guess, in the defense of George Zimmerman, if we want to go that route, he said he wanted to take the proceeds that I guess he didn't spend on whatever massive debt he has to actually to fund the fight against Hillary Clinton's anti-firearm rhetoric, which is a good thing. He also wanted to somehow use the money, I don't know how exactly he would do that, but to fight Black Lives Matter's violence against police. So what is he going to, is he going to buy equipment for police officers? Is he going to, like, in a kind of George Soros sort of way, send people to, I guess, protest against Black Lives Matter? Like, in practical application, and how much of this can he actually achieve for $5,000?
Yeah, well, you know what? If from the looks of some of these people at these like anti-Trump rallies, these left people, I mean, that 5K ain't going to get you very far. Okay, these people are used to having, all kinds of stuff laid out for them when they get to these protests. But I actually kind of like what he's saying there. I actually kind of think he's throwing a little gunfire against the fire that's been coming as part of this whole race baiting thing. He's fighting race baiting fire with some gunfire because, I don't know how he would use the money. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he would use the money for that, but at least he's raising it in people's consciousness because that's so much what this story was about. And that's one reason why, I was kind of pleased with that jury that kind of saw through all that crap and made a ruling on that case on the evidence alone. I think it was overcharged. I think they were both bad actors that night and both acted foolishly. And if there hadn't been so much race baiting involved, I think the guy probably would have spent a little time behind bars because, quite frankly, the guy was an idiot Barney Fife, and there should have been some Andy Griffith out there keeping him from getting a bullet for that gun, okay? But this was a really pivotal part of what's gone down with America in the last 8 years. President Obama was supposed to heal the racial divide, and he did everything he could to further divide us according to skin color, according to every category. And this was a key storyline, a key circumstance that aided him. And so I'm kind of glad that, because look, we're back out talking about it again. So kind of hat tip to Zimmerman. There ain't no way he can connect the dots between that 5K and the Black Lives Matter. But at least he's got us talking about it. And I kind of say that's kind of why I think it is cool to profit or to, tell these stories about these true crimes.
To bring awareness. Yeah. I mean, because we have to worry about what kind of world is Opie Griffith gonna inherit in the future. It's funny. I actually wanted to also say that I guess in a sense I do find solidarity with my white Hispanic brother in a sense that in that way. Because we do need to bring awareness to violence against police has to stop. And Hillary Clinton, with her damn anti-firearm rhetoric, we're going to be screwed if Hillary Clinton wins the election. I could foresee very easily the Second Amendment being wiped away. It's going to be ridiculous as far as what we wind up with. Should we have a third term of Obama in essence, which, and that's funny, you bring it up, but the race baiting from Obama that actually led to the intensity in that neighborhood that led to the conflict that led to the death of Trayvon, that was really precipitated by all this social justice movement, all this nonsense that we're getting from Barack Obama, from the Al Sharptons, from the Jesse Jacksons, from the Black Lives Matter movement. All of this is all manufactured because we don't live in that kind of a society anymore. A lot of these issues were decided back in the 60s. And when we're living, we have affirmative action. I mean, how many white people wind up, not getting an opportunity that they actually rightfully earned because of quotas and things like that? I mean, I've gotten to the point where I kind of just try to ignore it because it's not a real issue.
Well, it's not a real issue, so that's why they try to make it a real issue. That's why, in spite of the fact that George Zimmerman did what he did, just because he was George Zimmerman and the events were on the ground, it had nothing at all to do with Trayvon Martin's skin color. Just like the whole hands up, don't shoot was...
Hello, and I think I've lost Andrea. Andrea, are you still there?
This is not Andrea.
This is not Andrea. This is actually, hold on one second. I got to go back to, sorry, Andrea. Oh, I can't believe that happened. Sorry, see, this is what happens when you're on live radio. Sometimes, unfortunately, things happen. And just give me 1 second there, Judson. Hold on.
Hey, no worries.
No problem. Just give me one moment. Andrea, what happened? Where'd you go?
What happened was, I think, the NSA was listening to our conversation and decided it was too good, okay?
I know. That's you can't make changes. You can't change society. You can't win hearts and minds on internet radio anymore without the government getting involved.
Absolutely. And what we were saying was, you're right, there isn't an issue. And that's why they got to manufacture issues. Because as soon as the black community or any of their identity groups make headway in our society, they got to go, oh, no, wait a second. You're a victim here. You haven't made any progress. And they got to bring you down. They've got to oppress the very people that they accuse the Republican Party of oppressing. That's the left's game plan. And that's what it's about. And they're just continuing to amp it up. And we were also talking a little bit about how it's also about the Second Amendment. And you were saying we can't have a third term of Obama. Are you here to say that you're supporting Trump? Are you endorsing Trump?
You know what? I'm not making any definitive claims on anything at this point. Right now, I'm still licking my wounds and healing from what occurred last week. Last week was one of the toughest weeks I've ever had. I actually kind of went into a dark place for like about a day or so, where I just kind of didn't want to deal with anything or anybody. Over the results of the thing, and we're gonna approach all those, we're gonna cross all those bridges at the appropriate time. I'm looking at a lot of different options. There's actually a lot of great third party candidates that are worth looking at, but I'm not ready to definitively make a point right now. Listen, that sounds like you're interviewing me on your show. That sounds like a good question. I just felt like you took me back to a couple of weeks ago, where you're like grilling me with the tough questions. Listen, the lovely Andrea Kaye, I love you, babe. It was great having you on. I look forward to having you on a lot more in the future. Thank you so much for your time. This was very enlightening.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't you
Appreciate it
tell
so much.
everybody where they can hear you? I mean, I know where it is, but why don't you tell them yourself?
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm on AM 1170 KCBQ here in San Diego on Mondays and Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific. We stream online at www.am1170theanswer.com. Julio, come on my show soon, will you?
I will definitely. Thank you so much. And everybody, that was Andrea Kaye, the lovely and talented actress / talk show host. And on the other side of this break, we're going to be back with Tea Party Nation founder Judson Phillips. Stay tuned.
Politics got you down? Is your team in last place? Is your significant other sleeping with your neighbor? Well, cheer up. The Julio Rivera Show is on. Deal with your problems afterwards.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, hit it!
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The Julio Rivera Show is on.
Yeah, and we are back, and had a little bit of a technical glitch there, and we jumped calls somehow, and I apologize for that, but my next guest is a very interesting man. He is a Tea Party activist. He is a conservative, Mr. Judson Phillips. How are you this evening?
Hey, Julio, man, I am doing great, my friend. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I'm so glad that you're here. It was I don't know what happened before. It was like something glitchy happens. And that's sometimes that happens in live radio, especially when you're working without a producer. But listen, the last week and a half, and Andrea kind of touched on it, she was trying to get me to give up some information that I'm not ready to give out yet, because I have a lot to think about. But what's your take on the end of, for all intents and purposes, the Republican primary and the presumptive nomination of Donald Trump?
All I can say is this. Julio, 2016.
Julio 20, exactly, yes. It's a little too late to get me on the primaries. Maybe we can get Steve Lanigan to mobilize all the petition signers in New Jersey. I'd like to win New Jersey. If I can get the New Jersey electoral votes, I'll be happy with that.
Hey, no, absolutely. The last couple of weeks, the last week, 10 days have been tough for me. I was a crew surrogate. I was on the road, and in fact,
you were a real crew surrogate. I was a make-believe crew surrogate.
Yeah. No, I was out there. The funny thing is, I've had some Trumpkins trying to rag me on Twitter, social media. You were a paid employee of the Cruz campaign. No, I was a surrogate. There's a difference. Please try to learn what it is. But yeah, I was out there on the road for them, and I was in D.C. on Tuesday. I was going to be doing just nonstop media Wednesday morning, and I was on a video conference call, and all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up. Oh, is it true he's going to drop out? And I'm like going, what? And then we got the news and kind of ruined Tuesday, and I mean,
it ruined my life. Forget Tuesday; it ruined my entire life. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it really has ruined America, because now the 2016 presidential election is a choice between two dishonest New York liberals. That's it.
Exactly. You know what? That's one of the best ways that I've ever heard anybody put it. You're absolutely 150% right. They're both New York City liberal progressives. They're both really, I mean, forget what Donald Trump says, because what he says you got to take with a grain of salt, because what he says in the morning will be different by the afternoon, and by the evening he'll flip back into a third ideology. So you can't take him seriously at all.
No, and in fact, I like what Brad Thor said. He's got more positions than a porn actress.
That's a great one.
Oh yeah, I love that one. I've been repeating that one because that's just, I mean, that wins the award for the best quote of the week. But it really is true, because we've seen Donald Trump when it came to abortion a few weeks ago. He took 5 positions in 3 days. He took 3 different positions on the transgender bathroom bills that are in a number of states. He now came out and said, well, that thing about banning Muslims, that was only a suggestion. Well, deportation, he says at his rallies, yeah, we'll deport them. But if you look at what he talks about policy-wise, what he's really talking about is something called touchback amnesty, where they you basically send them back, and then they reapply properly, and then they're back just as fast as you know it.
Exactly, yeah, and he's actually used the word expedited. I wrote an article for Right Wing News about a month ago touching on using Donald Trump's own quotations against him. This is the thing. People only hear or they only read the big headline. They see Donald Trump is going to deport people. They get these, the imagery that they have in their mind is, like Operation Wetback back in the 50s. They think he's going to be like Eisenhower. He's going to smash and grab, get these people out, and if they want to come back, they go to the back of the line. That's not true. He's going to put us all through the cost, and it's expensive to round up all these people, to whether it's through investigating or how by whatever means, get these people out. That's going to cost us billions of dollars just for them to come back. And I know why he wants to do it. And I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but he wants to take on the two biggest building projects you could possibly imagine, which is 700 miles of border fencing and walls and the Keystone Pipeline. But you know what? All his buddies there in the building lobby, all the corporate cronies, they want to do that with immigrant labor. And the way they're going to achieve that is they're going to pacify the immigration people, that the people that want immigration enforcement, by getting them all deported, only to let them right back in. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to steal American jobs by being the ones that actually build that wall and actually build that Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah, well, assuming that he actually builds the wall, which I've got my doubts about. But you're nailing something right here on the head that Republicans are not paying attention to, because unfortunately, so many of the Republicans have bought into the Chamber of Commerce line about, we have to be free trade. And by the way, I believe in free trade. I love free trade. But what we have now is not free trade. We have crony trade. And of course, what the Chamber of Commerce wants is to bring in all this cheap labor, because the single largest expenditure any corporation has is for salaries and wages. And if you can bring in this cheap labor, you depress wages, which means the corporations have to pay less. And yeah, you know what? I own a couple of corporations. I get the idea. I like to have more money in my pocket at the end of the year. But you know what? Doing this, let's say Trump does what he is talking about doing, this touchback immigration. We send them out. We bring them right back in. Well, guess what? They're suddenly legal. Well, the net effect of this is to really flood the labor market. Now, you currently have roughly 94 million Americans who are out of the labor force right now. That number will increase with even more of these illegal aliens. And by the way, it's not just going to be the illegal aliens coming into this country. Everybody will get the word, well, if you just go back, you can come right back in. Guess what? You're going to have a bunch of them going back and coming right back in, but you're also going to have a bunch of them who've never been here before, who are going to go, I spent the last 12 years in Pittsburgh. Yeah, let me back in.
Exactly, because there's no way to verify it, and it's all like just the fact that, and he did this already with the executive amnesty from a couple of years ago. He sent a message to the world that we have an open border. It's an open spigot. Come to America. Come to our beautiful sanctuary cities. Apply for our wonderful entitlements. I mean, the world knows this already.
Yeah, and it's appalling when you have a person who's on Social Security disability, and you have an illegal alien getting government benefits, and the illegal alien gets more than an American citizen who's on Social Security disability by about $1,700. I think it's $1,700 a month. So it's absolutely insane. But going back to what we're talking about, Trump will open the borders up. Trump will, a lot of Trump's supporters just go after Paul Ryan just tooth and nail. Oh, he's a globalist. He's, for amnesty, open borders. And he is a free trader, not in the way I would define it, but more the Chamber of Commerce way of defining it. And he does favor some form of amnesty. But, they're going after, Trump supporters are going after Ryan for this. Well, guess what? Go pay attention to what your dear leader is doing, because he basically wants the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it depends. I mean, if it's Monday at 4 o'clock, that's what he wants. On Tuesday at 7 o'clock, if it's a full moon, he may actually be for something completely the opposite of that until the following day, only if it's partly cloudy and raining between 2:30 and 4.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. But the problem, here's a real problem. My complaint, what I used to say is Trump has no core values. And I've kind of changed my tune on that a little bit. He has an entire lifetime of being a progressive liberal. The only time he said anything that we might consider conservative, and he really hadn't, he said just stuff that's populist, is when he wanted to run for president as a Republican starting about 2 years ago. Now, he hadn't done anything to validate the fact that his opinions have changed, which they really haven't. But Trump has some core beliefs. They mostly focus on himself because he's a narcissist. I mean, the dude is just narcissistically insane. But here's the thing. A link that was passed around on my timeline today on Facebook from the Fluffington Post, as some people like to call it. It was a quote that Donald Trump talked about shutting down the internet. Guess what? This is a dream of progressives. I was telling some people earlier about this. There is one thing. If you look, you will see this. This has been proposed, hit and miss in the past, but trust me, at some point the left is going to push it through. The idea that you have to have a key to access the internet. The government will issue you a key. That is your universal internet access. And if you don't have your key, you can't access the internet. But you can also have nothing private or anonymous on the internet. And of course, if the government doesn't like what you're saying, they can revoke your key. And guess what? You don't have access to email, internet, anything else. Well, guess what? This is what Donald Trump likes. He doesn't like people who criticize him. He wants to.
And he did, I don't know if you remember this, I just want to bring this up real quick, not to interrupt you, but he wanted to see the libel laws change so people couldn't criticize him. Or if you do criticize him, he can sue for massive amounts of money. And you know what? If somebody sues you, whether or not they have a case, if somebody has enough money, they can just drag on the case, until they bankrupt you.
Absolutely. The concept is called lawfare. And being a lawyer, I've seen it plenty of times, where you have somebody who's got more resources, oftentimes someone who does not have the same resources will be forced to settle litigation just because they can't afford to fight it anymore. And that is what Donald Trump wants. One of the scary things is Donald Trump said he wanted to make all government employees sign non-disclosure agreements, not just the ones that handle sensitive materials, but everybody. And so you could not whistleblow. You could not criticize Donald Trump. You could not criticize the government. And these are some of his core beliefs. They're very authoritarian in nature. And this is what we have in store for us. If Donald Trump is elected, he will literally be Barack Obama on steroids, not necessarily because of his policies, although I think some of his policies will be every bit as far to the left as Barack Obama's were. But what he's going to do, and this is what is so dangerous for America, he will take the remaining bounds that have been set up in the Constitution by our founding fathers, and he'll just crash right through them. He will just obliterate them. And unfortunately, I have zero confidence that Congress is going to stand up to him, and because Congress has not to this date. And if he's a Republican, it will be even harder for a Republican-controlled Congress to stand up to him. And maybe Donald Trump won't be the first American dictator, but guess what? Whoever follows Donald Trump in 4 or 8 years will be.
Wow. Judson, as a major voice within the movement, what would you say to, all the conservatives that are listening, the activist types? Where should we put our focus in as far as for this November? What should we be trying to accomplish with obviously the disaster that we already have on our hands with the Republican Party? Where should we focus? Local races? What should we do?
All right, it's the all of the above strategy. At the national level, at the White House, conservatives are going to be in exile for another 4 years because it doesn't matter whether it's Trump or Clinton. We're just not going to be welcome. What we really need to do, and we're going to have to do, is to try and save a Republican Congress. And this is not going to be. In 2010, we fought and took the House of Representatives away from the Democrats. And a lot of people thought, oh, yeah, we got the House of Representatives. Everything's going to be great now. Unicorns are going to fly through rainbows and, everything will be great. and well, guess what? That didn't happen. And then, 2014, hey, we take the Senate, and guess what? We didn't get a lot. It's gotten better because they are doing some good things up there, including some good IRS reform that I've been working on. But here's what we're going to have to do this fall. I'm just assuming that Trump loses and loses badly. I'm looking at the Electoral College, and it's not pretty. We're looking at solid red states that are in play now. Indiana, North Carolina, Georgia. All Hillary Clinton has to do is win Florida and carry the states Democrats normally carry. Game over. That's 271 electoral votes right there.
Wow.
So what I'm concentrating on, and what I encourage everybody else to concentrate on, is get involved in House and Senate races where we can try to save as many Republicans as we can. because even if Hillary Clinton is the president, if we can keep the Republicans in control of the Senate, that's going to be a major task, and the House of Representatives, which is probably will happen. Then we can at least try to stop some of this. Here's what's going on in the Senate, and this is why this is so important. This year, the Republicans have to defend 24 seats, and the Democrats have to defend only 10. All right, that just happens to be the way things turn around this time. In 2018, it's going to be just the opposite. So 2018 will be a good year for Republicans, but we got to survive till then. We've got right now there's 54 Republicans, and if the Democrats can knock off 5 of them, then they take the majority. And can you imagine Chuck Schumer as the majority leader of the Senate?
Oh, God. Yeah, if it wasn't bad enough. If Harry Reid wasn't bad enough, now we'll put a New York City liberal in.
Yeah.
How would that work?
Oh, yeah. That's going to be a disaster. So what I'm doing, this is me personally, I am going out to a number of races, and I am trying to help and use our organization to help a number of endangered Republicans. When Trump basically became the presumptive nominee, that just solidified a lot of things for me. I'm going to be, this is going to shock people. I'm going to be endorsing some moderate Republicans, particularly in Senate races. And people go, oh, well, these guys are moderates. They're not conservatives. No kidding. Guess what? A liberal is worse. I'll give you a great example. We're going to come out at some point this year and endorse Kelly Ayotte in New Hampshire.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. Kelly Ayotte has not been a raging conservative, okay? She's in many ways she's been a disappointment because she was elected in the Tea Party wave of 2010. But guess what? If you think she's bad, Maggie Hassan, the governor of New Hampshire, who is a raging Hillary Clinton liberal Democrat, will be far worse. Mm-hmm. If nothing else, Kelly Ayotte will have one redeeming vote on the first day in 2017 that the new Congress is in place, and that will be the organizational vote that determines who's the majority leader of the Senate. Mm-hmm. And if she does nothing else right in the next 6 years, that vote is worth it.
Wow. It's funny. People don't really... when they're in the heat of the moment, they don't understand how things actually work. And it's interesting. We fought the Tea Party in particular in 2010, and then this big revolution that we had in 2014 to gain control of both parts of Congress. And if we piss it away here because we make a mistake or we follow the wrong national party candidate, I mean, we're really going to be screwed. It's going to undo 6 years of great work and activism and all the wonderful things that got us to the point where we had the House and the Senate. Listen, Judson, thank you so much for being here, for coming on. I think you're fantastic. I think you have got a lot of great ideas. I want to have you on again soon. Can you give us the website or any of the contact information for people who want to reach out to you?
Sure, absolutely. You can find me at either teapartynation.com or judsonphillips.com. Twitter, Judson Phillips or Tea Party Nation, and you follow me. And we've got we're on Facebook too, although we're not that active on Facebook. But yeah, I'd love to be back. This show's great.
Super enlightening. Like honestly, this was a great conversation. It's going to be a lot of interesting things going on between now and the actual, the actual convention. Even I look forward to seeing you there. We should definitely hook up, and hopefully we can get some of your thoughts there in Cleveland in July.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Hopefully. I'm not going there in an official role, but I may be there with something Tea Party Nation may be doing. And so, absolutely. And then, hey, listen, next time you have me on, and let's do it again because I love doing radio like this. But next time you have me on, let's talk about why my organization endorsed Paul Ryan over his challenger, because that's I know we're coming up on a break here, and we're going to have to go in just a second. But that's kind of a long conversation, but it's a conversation that's well worth having that people need to think about why. Yep. We need to do certain things that may be at least a little bit counterintuitive, but in the long run, strategically, they make sense.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Judson. And that was Judson Phillips, everyone. Coming up next on the other side of the break, we have my buddy, Gene Berardelli. He'll be up in about 30 seconds. Thanks a lot for hanging with me up to this point. And just give us about 30 seconds for the break, people.
You're listening to the number one source for political, pop culture, and sports talk on the radio. The Julio Rivera Show. Hashtag Conservarican. With no fuck left to give. This week in sports with Julio Rivera. Win, lose, or tie. Someone's getting paid way too much.
Oh my God. What a week it's been for Mets pitchers hitting. And who do we bring in here to talk about it? Mr. Gene Berardelli, the award-winning host of Behind Enemy Lines. Gene, how are you this evening?
Oh, my good friend Juan Rodriguez, how are you, sir? Good to talk to you.
Thanks. It's so nice to hear from you, Vinny. I haven't
No
talked to you
problem
since
there,
the last
Jose.
time
Good to
we
hear.
were at the cannoli shop, Paulie.
Yeah, Jesus, it's amazing. I mean, the time that we had there together, you were so out of place, though, but that's another story.
Yeah, I always walk out of there with like freaking red sauce on my shirt, but that's another story for another day. Hey, how are you actually, Gene? It's been a minute. I'm glad to hear from you. We messaged back and forth, but it's been a while since we kicked back and had some drinks and did karaoke and all the other crazy stuff that we do when we get together. But tell me actually, what's your position right now? Actually, because I know we went back and forth on this with the whole Bartolo Colon and whether or not he was worth the money. How happy are you with the performance so far with him?
Well, let me tell you something, Joaquin.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is fantastic with Bartolo Colon. Mm-hmm. He has not only revitalized the entire Mets pitching staff and been a stopgap in case of injury, well worth the $9 million, but he has single-handedly made the argument for every baseball purist why the designated hitter should be out of baseball. The National League should not adopt it at all. Look at the excitement of a pitcher who's been in baseball 19 seasons hitting his first home run at the age of 72. It's fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and it only took him about a week and a half to round the bases, though. I think like somewhere between second and third base. I think he had got some oxygen. I think he sat down. I think he had like a couple of slices of pizza, and then he he resumed the home run trot. I think he started it on Tuesday night. When did he hit that home run?
I believe he hit it back in 1997.
Exactly, but he didn't cross the plate until this week.
But the run still counts. I mean,
it does still count. Yeah, that's the thing with baseball. We don't have a clock in baseball, so he's allowed to do that.
Goes on and on and on. Absolutely, Javier. Great point.
Yeah, no, you're Giovanni. You know what you're talking about.
Hey, listen. By the way, I want to say thank you for bringing me on to talk about baseball, of which I have no qualifications whatsoever. It's just great to talk to you. But
I know. I figured if I figured anybody that I can do my first sports segment on the news show with and it would flow kind of okay, it would be you, because not only do you not know anything about sports, but if we were going to talk about politics, you'd be lost too, so you would be in total agreement with everything I would have to say.
It's a close call. Who would know less about politics, me or you? But that being said, can you now admit that I'm right about Bartolo Colon and signing him?
Yeah, you know what? I will actually, if you need me to validate that in whatever way that you need me to validate that, I will give you your props. I still think, based on when they pulled the move, I didn't know that the Mets were willing to expand payroll to $130 million. You didn't know that either. When they gave the money to DeAza and they gave the money to Bartolo Colon, I was like, what? We need a real meaty hitter. But, they were able to pull off a deal for Cespedes later on in the winter. I believe that they pulled that off, late January. I mean, they almost got to spring training with Cespedes unsigned. So nobody knew. You couldn't tell me that you had a crystal ball telling you that this was going to happen.
Well, listen, you were looking for a meaty hitter, but you got a meaty pitcher. So I think you ended up just getting whatever you wanted. Plus,
exactly. I just like meat. I'm a carnivore.
And that is now on tape.
Exactly, yes. It's his stuff, so yes. It's nothing wrong. There's a lot of conservatives like meat.
So I hear nowadays. And
exactly,
I'm glad you're going to add yourself to the list. Say it loud.
Yeah, say it loud. Say it proud.
There you go, pal.
Yeah.
This is going off the rails already.
I know, yeah. This is it's minute 59. We have less than 60 seconds. Gene, just say something funny. Tell us a joke or something as we leave the air.
Certainly. What do you call a fish with no eyes?
What? Oh, God.
There you go. You said any joke.
Any joke. That is a joke. I got to give you your props. Listen, Gene, I want to thank you for coming on. I'm going to have you on again. I'm never going to have 4 people on in one show again because I don't give enough time to any one guest, but I did want to have a big show with a lot of people on the first time, so I kind of bit off a little more than I can chew. Thank you to Gene Berardelli, the award-winning host of Behind Enemy Lines, Judson Phillips, founder of Tea Party Nation, Andrea Kaye, the beautiful actress and talk show host, and Paul Nehlen, who's taking on Paul Ryan in the 1st Congressional District in Wisconsin. The Julio Rivera Show on LanternsBuzz.com.